Welcome back to the Explainer. Okay, picture this scenario for a second. A truck rolls up to your site. The cargo? Totally expected. The dock? Wide open and waiting. And yet, literally nothing moves. 10 minutes bleed into 30, and suddenly, that tiny little delay snowballs into a completely missed slot. Sound familiar? Today, we are diving straight into a fascinating and, let's be honest, often totally chaotic space in supply chain operations, the yard. Let's look at how we can bridge this massive visibility gap.
To really understand the problem here, we just need to look at the contrast. Inside the warehouse, right, everything is this finely tuned, perfectly measured machine. You've got inventory, packing, loading, labor, all tracked to the second. But the moment you step outside those loading dock doors, the picture goes completely blurry. It turns into this unpredictable black hole where trucks miss their slots and warehouse teams are left totally in the dark about what's happening just a few hundred feet away.
Section 1. The problem. The unseen yard. Okay, let's dive into this. When volume is low, you can kind of scrape by with manual tracking. A few radios here, some spreadsheets there, maybe relying on sheer luck. But the absolute second that volume spikes, that manual model shatters. And it usually leads to one deceptively simple, totally panic-inducing question. Where is trailer 84? I mean, if you're managing hundreds of trailer movements a day, not knowing if a refrigerated unit was actually checked, or if a carrier is still just sitting at the gate, well, it means your entire logistics flow is about to grind to a total halt. And here's exactly how that single, unanswered question causes this catastrophic ripple effect. Poor visibility, it rarely causes one massive explosion, right? It's more like a quiet death by 1,000 cuts. First, people physically stop working just to walk the yard and search. Then, drivers sit around idling. Yard trucks start making these totally unnecessary, time-wasting moves looking for the right asset, and ultimately, the docks just sit empty. Everyone is incredibly busy, running around, but zero actual productivity is happening.
Section 2. The solution, bringing the yard into view.
So the crucial point is, how do we actually transform this blurry, chaotic outdoor area? Well, we use a yard monitoring system. Think of this as your digital bridge. It creates this live, beating operational layer that sits perfectly between the transportation planning out on the highway and the warehouse execution going on inside the building. It literally turns the hopeful guessing game of, well, somebody should know, into the powerful reality of, we know right now. Now, to truly illuminate the yard, we have to keep an eye on 4 very specific zones, all at the exact same time. First up, the gate. Because honestly, if your gate process is slow or stuck on paper, the rest of your entire day inherits that delay. Second, you've got to track every single vehicle and trailer relocation. Third is yard occupancy. And it's funny, right? Operations teams almost always think they are completely out of physical space. But a lot of times they actually just have a space behavior problem, like empty trailers hoarding all the premium spots. And finally, the ultimate pressure point, dock status. A dock might look totally available in your spreadsheet, but if a lingering trailer is sitting there blocking it, it is completely useless.
Part 3. The technology. Seeing is knowing.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that absolutely no single piece of hardware can cure these blind spots all on its own. It's like a giant puzzle. Cameras, they're great for seeing a queue, sure, but they can't tell you the priority of the load inside. IoT sensors are brilliant for detecting an occupied space. GPS, well, that extends your visibility way out onto the highway. And RFID, that gives you instant trailer identity, so nobody, and I mean nobody, has to walk the yard in the pouring rain with a soggy clipboard. It's only when all these technologies work together that the entire operation is fully revealed. But we have to be incredibly careful here. Just tossing a camera feed here or a gate list there, that is not visibility. Honestly, that is just noise. Just slapping sensors everywhere doesn't actually solve anything if it only leads to a disconnected radio message or, heaven forbid, another spreadsheet. The real magic, the true value, only unlocks when this connected data triggers real-time alerts. That's what empowers your team to act earlier instead of just drowning in data.
Section 4. The shift, monitoring versus management.
And this brilliantly illustrates a critical moment in every single digital yard project. It's that moment where simply having visibility just isn't enough anymore. You actually have to shift from passive observation to active intervention. Think about it like this. Monitoring is basically a weather report. It's passive. It just tells you, hey, it's raining, or hey, 8 vehicles are currently waiting. But management, that's air traffic control. A true yard management system takes that visibility and actually decides what happens next. It's actively controlling workflows, assigning docks, prioritizing vehicles, the whole shebang.
Now you might be wondering who actually needs this full air traffic control setup. While basic monitoring is totally fine for smaller sites, high-volume operations absolutely require it. We're talking high-traffic distribution centers where a single peak-hour surge can completely destroy a schedule. Or manufacturing plants where a late delivery of raw materials means a completely dead, totally stalled production line. And 3PL hubs that are balancing multiple, highly demanding clients. For those complex operations, visibility alone just won't cut it. Active management is literally the only way to protect your service quality and your speed.
Part 5. Common pitfalls. Avoiding mistakes.
Let's move to the next point and see how this builds, because before you rush out to digitize everything, you should know it's super easy to end up with a high-tech but incredibly messy process. We see companies fall into these traps all the time, like relying only on cameras. Without structured data attached to that video, they still have no idea what a shipment's priority is. Or they have a total lack of system integration. If your yard tech doesn't talk to your warehouse tech, guess what? Your team is still out there bridging that gap manually. And the absolute biggest trap? Using data just for yesterday's reporting. To clear today's traffic jam, you've got to use live, real-time data to reroute vehicles and adjust your plans on the fly.
So, what does this all mean? Well, it leaves us with one really critical question to ask about your own operations. Is your yard just visible, or is it truly controllable? Bridging the visibility gap and finally ditching those spreadsheets, that's just step one. The ultimate goal here is turning that awareness into coordinated, active control. When your monitoring, your access, and your workflows actually connect, you finally tame that chaotic blur outside the warehouse. So take a look at your yard tomorrow morning and ask yourself, are you just watching the weather, or are you ready to control the traffic? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.